I remember when they first announced Invincible was getting an animated adaptation. I'd always been interested in the comic as it was created by Robert Kirkman, the man who also created the Walking Dead comic. Now I've never watched the show fully, but I've seen bits of it here and there, and what I saw was good. The zombie formula is played out, and yet The Walking Dead has managed to endure for so long. Regardless of whether you think The Walking Dead has outstayed its welcome and is a bit of a shambling corpse itself, it is undeniable that it has been a massive hit. Its most viewed episode, the Season 5 premiere, had 17.29 million viewers, and the show, beginning midway through Season 3, was even able to have 75 consecutive episodes where the viewership was above 10 million viewers for people watching on the day the episode released. No matter the show's shortcomings, that is impressive, and the show certainly wouldn't have had that success if its source material wasn't good too. No matter how much or little the show deviated from the comics, it needed a good foundation to be anywhere near as successful as it is, and I remember looking into Robert Kirkman to see if he made anything else. It is rare for a creator to make one thing, and I noticed that whilst he had a clear number 1 in The Walking Dead, he also had a clear number 2 in Invincible. Robert Kirkman has made multiple comics, but these two were clearly his biggest, and I always wondered if anything would be done with Invincible as had been done with The Walking Dead. So when they announced the Invincible animated series, I was extremely excited. So does the Invincible series live up to my expectations? Let's just say that it absolutely does. Whilst I'm assuming most of you watching this video will already know the premise of Invincible, it's still worth mentioning it here. Also, spoilers ahead, as I will be discussing my thoughts on Invincible Seasons 1 and 2, as well as the Atom Eve special. Invincible follows Mark Grayson, the son of Omni-Man, arguably the greatest and most powerful superhero on the planet. Mark dreams of being a superhero exactly like his father, and yet when he receives his wish, he discovers not just the true trauma of being a superhero, but that his father is not the man he thought he was. For Invincible to work as well as it does, it first needs a great lead, and Mark Grayson is a fantastic character. He sort of reminds me of Dick Grayson, Nightwing. I don't know if that's intentional considering Invincible is inspired by DC, what with the Guardians of the Globe being the Justice League, and Omni-Man clearly being a Superman General Zod hybrid, but I couldn't help but see Nightwing in Invincible. Probably doesn't help that both characters have the same surname. It's likely just a coincidence, but I do find a lot of similarities between the characters. I like Mark because he has always wanted to be a hero. It's the greatest wanton desire that he has had for his entire life. I love that the show portrays superheroes in a realistic way. The Boys shows a more cynical and dark version of what a world of superheroes would be like. Invincible feels more balanced, presenting the heroes as these people trying their best to save lives from the many dangers of this universe. But that doesn't mean the heroes get things right all the time. They make mistakes, and sometimes their actions make things worse. Through Mark we really see this. He's extremely powerful. One of, if not the most powerful heroes on the planet by the end of the season. Yet he makes mistakes. He holds back too out of fear of hurting those around him. Mark struggles with being a hero, and he struggles with being Omni-Man's son. And I like that the show genuinely takes the time to show Mark's inner demons and allows him the chance to reflect and grow. Mark is young. Like any young person, he doesn't know what to do with his life. Being a superhero, and a very strong one at that, has removed Mark's ability to live how he truly wants to live, and we see that in the very sad but understandable breakdown of his relationship with Amber, which worked surprisingly well considering everyone hated Amber in Season 1. They really did a good job of making Amber far more likeable and reasonable in Season 2. Mark's a great character, and more specifically a great superhero character, because he decides to make the sacrifices that he does, and because he struggles with his decisions and actions, and because he struggles with being Omni-Man's son, something which was very much at the forefront of Invincible's character this season. All his life he's wanted to be Omni-Man, and now he feels the need to remind everyone and reassure everyone that he is an Omni-Man too. But it's not just everyone else that he needs to reassure, he also needs to reassure himself that he's not going to become his father. I don't know much about where Invincible's story is going, but I do know enough to know that Mark's troubles are far from over, and I look forward to seeing how both his character develops and how he handles these future events, both physically and emotionally. Also massive props to Steven Yeun for his performance as Mark Grayson. One of Invincible's strengths is its stacked voice cast. Steven Yeun does an incredible job of injecting Mark with a youthful energy, whilst also perfectly bringing out his more vulnerable side. He was the perfect casting choice for Mark Grayson. However, whilst Invincible is a great character, he's not the most iconic to come out of the show. No, that would easily be Omni-Man, played superbly by J.K. Simmons. J.K. has long since proven himself to be a great actor and voice actor, so it should come as no surprise that he absolutely nails the role of Omni-Man. Omni-Man, like his son, is a complicated character. He has lived his long life conquering and being one of the strongest Viltrumites to ever exist. and yet his time on Earth has changed him. Unlike Invincible, he has this inner turmoil within himself. Does he continue his mission and bring Earth to its knees, or does he listen to his son and his own heart? Being around humans has made Omni-Man himself more human and caused him to think about what he truly wants, and made him realise that he cares. He actually cares about the people around him. At first you believe Omni-Man to be a villain, but then you realise that he has this goodness in him, and slowly he's discovering that himself. Like Invincible, I'm very excited to see where Omni-Man's story goes. However, these aren't the only two good characters. There's Atom Eve. Eve is a character with a lot of potential, and also has one of the most interesting powers in the series. However, I don't think the show has fully taken advantage of Eve yet. I don't doubt it will, especially as it's clear that Mark and Eve are inevitable, but she's taken more of a back seat than I expected her to. However, what we have seen of Eve was enough to make it clear that she is a great character, and her struggles with worth and identity are issues that many people will be able to connect with. Like Mark, Eve has all these wants and desires and dreams, and just like Mark, we watch as she's confronted by the reality of these dreams. She wants to be the hero, someone that people can look up to, and yet in season 2, she only made the situation worse. It's sad too that there isn't really anyone for Eve to turn to or seek advice from. Her parents, mainly her dad, are awful and treat her terribly, and the people around her look down on her for her decisions. The only person who treats her with any sort of care and or respect is Mark. I really do look forward to when Mark and Eve become official, because I'm really excited to see more of Eve's character and what sides of her character will be opened up by their relationship. Plus, Gillian Jacobs of Community fame is fantastic in the role. Also, while she may not get as much screen time as I would like, she did get a pretty good special episode dedicated to her, which revealed her backstory and made her far more sympathetic in my eyes. Whilst all the characters are great and I'd struggle to pick one as my favourite, Cecil would be a very strong contender. Cecil works so well because he's very morally ambiguous, but not in the way I'm used to. When someone says morally ambiguous, I expect that to be because they act out in self-interest or that they do bad things. Cecil always seems to have the fate of the world and the people in it on his shoulders, and every decision he makes genuinely seems to be what he believes is best for the world. He acts completely selflessly, but that doesn't mean he always acts ethically. He makes calls and decisions, and there are reveals involving Cecil's character that can make you question his character. But that's what I love about Cecil. He's able to make the difficult decisions, and sometimes that involves saying or doing something that most people would consider a bad thing. And again, like the other characters, Cecil is carried by a brilliant performance from the always great Walton Goggins. I'm happy that the Fallout series has made him better known to the average viewer. Rex had quite the experience this season. It's not often someone survives a bullet to their head. Rex is an interesting character purely because he's not a good guy, but you're constantly rooting for him to change for the better, and I genuinely think he will. But also, Invincible is the type of show to leave him as an arsehole. I hope he changes because he can be cool, and he can be considerate, and he knows he needs to change, but whether he does, we'll just have to wait and see. She might not be my favourite, but I like that the show does check in on Mark's mom, Debbie, every now and then. She may not be the character changing the course of Invincible's story, although she is responsible for Mark being a good guy in this universe, but the events of Invincible's story always have a major impact on Debbie's life. She is consumed by the guilt of marrying Omni-Man and not noticing his true actions. She isn't responsible for what he did, but she can't help but blame herself. Her life has been upended and she doesn't know how to cope with it. But Debbie was able to raise Mark right and change a conqueror's heart. She can take whatever life throws her way. And I love how Sandra Oh was able to put both strength and vulnerability into Debbie's character. Whilst the show has many more good characters, such as the always reliable William, the funny but also cool Alan, Donald having an existential crisis, Rudy learning to be human, and Immortal struggling with survivor's guilt, I think the main characters I just mentioned are by far the strongest and most memorable in the cast. And with that done, let's move on to the next portion of the video. The negatives. I really like Season 2, but I don't think it was as strong as Season 1. Season 1 had a very good beginning and an even better ending. Season 2 by comparison feels like a lot of setup for future storylines. That's not a bad thing, but there wasn't really as many standout moments as the first season, at least in my opinion. I fully believe the setup of Omni-Man and Alan being in prison, Oliver's character, Anissa showing up on Earth and Mark's struggle with committing a murder will be paid off well down the line, but it meant that this season lacked the punch of the first season, at least for me. It was a great season with some great moments, the Lizard League battle was fantastic, Angstrom Levy was an interesting antagonist, and Invincible's battle against him was one that will stick with him for the rest of the series. But you didn't have the Omni-Man reveal, and something of that level in Season 2. It doesn't help that I think the season finale doesn't feel like a season finale. My dad literally didn't realise that the season was even over until I told him. And also they stupidly cut the season in two for some misguided reason. Now mid-season breaks do work. In fact, the Walking Dead TV show did mid-season breaks as well. They work because it's like you get a bunch of episodes and then you don't have to wait years for another season. You only have to wait a little bit for the next batch of episodes. The problem with Invincible doing this is that we only get 4 episodes before the break and 4 after it. The final season of Ozark, for example, was split in 2, but the difference is that Ozark's final season was 14 episodes, so you got 7 episodes before the break and 7 after. Invincible season 2 was 8 episodes long. The entire season was almost as long as one of the parts of Ozark's final season. 4 episodes is not enough to have a break on. I don't care if we apparently need a breather, which in my opinion we didn't. Episode 4 was a good episode, but episode 5 was the episode with the biggest cliffhanger. All this accomplished was reducing the hype in the series, and most people didn't even realise that the second batch of episodes had even started airing. It would be really silly to do this again with the confirmed 3rd season, but who knows? People are silly, so it wouldn't surprise me if they try it again. Also, I'm not a fan of the animation in Invincible. Sometimes it can be good, and that fight on the freeway in the Atomy special was well animated, but there are some genuinely badly animated sections in this show, and they are quite frequent too. It's a shame because the show definitely could have some amazingly animated sequences. Western animation has been popping off recently. You've got Castlevania and Arcane front and centre leading the pack, Blue Eye Samurai was somehow able to make its 3D animation beautiful, and even X-Men 97, despite some people's concerns, has been a truly breathtaking show to look at. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Valma even had good animation too. Invincible undeniably has the weakest animation out of all of those shows, and it's a shame that they don't just outsource the animation to certain artists for certain sequences if the animation studio themselves aren't up to the task. Considering this is Amazon making this show, then they really should have the money and resources to make Invincible one of the best looking animations around, but at least for me, it isn't. Honestly, I think a lot of the gore and blood does a good job of hiding the weaker animation. However, the fact that I think the animation is so weak, but I still love the show regardless, should be a sign as to how good the story and characters are in this show. Invincible is apparently sticking around for at least a few more seasons, and I'm very happy about that. I really hope that this show is able to fully adapt its source material, because it is genuinely one of the most entertaining shows that you can watch right now. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Do you like Invincible? Do you hate it? Who's your favourite character and why? Are you excited for season 3? And do you agree with me about the animation? Also, which season did you enjoy more? Season 1 or season 2? And what did you think of the Atomy special? Let me know your answers to all those questions as well as your thoughts on the series in the comments below. And when you're down there, be sure to hit the like button. It significantly boosts this video in the YouTube algorithm and really helps me out. And if you're feeling especially generous, then do consider subscribing too please. I'm aiming to hit 1000 subscribers before the end of the year, and it's looking very doable. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.